a former social strategist turned content creator and content marketer with over 10 years of experience in marketing and advertising. That said, throughout my career, I have worked not only as a marketer hiring creators, I've also been on the opposite end being hired as a creator. And throughout my experience, I've learned that brands don't always know how to partner with creators. And on the flip side, creators oftentimes don't know how to partner with brands. And anybody got time for that, because that just means missed opportunities and missed money. So I started Creator Tea Talk with one goal in mind: to bring together the players in the creator economy, which are the creators, influencers, brands, marketers, and more, to have those conversations. Now, today's episode is going to get a little granular because we're going to be talking about what I would call a sub-community of creators in in the creator economy called UGC creators. And for anyone that doesn't know what UGC is, it stands for user-generated content. So essentially, a UGC creator is someone who creates sponsored content that appears authentic and is very on brand for who that creator is, but it's created to essentially showcase a brand's product or services. So recently, we've seen this kind of uptick in this specific niche of UGC content creation when it comes to the creator economy. If you literally search TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, you'll see tons of creators who are building businesses and personal brands from UGC content creation and partnering with brands on UGC content creation. So I wanted to take a dive into the work these creators are doing, learn how the hell they're making their money, and why brands should work with them. So that said, we have a very talented group of panelists today. You guys are going to see two more rolling in a little bit. But I do want to toss the mic over to them so they can introduce themselves. Jazmin, I do want to start with you. If you can tell the people who you are, where you're from, and where they can follow you.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Jazmin Griffith. I am also based out of Atlanta, so hey. I am a freelance social media director, strategist, full-time content creator, and influencer. And you can find me at I Am the Socialista on both TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right, I'll jump in. We'll do it popcorn style. Hey, everyone. My name is Zameena Mejia. I'm based out of Queens and Brooklyn and New York City. Woot woot. So my full-time work is in communications in the nonprofit world. And I moonlight as a content creator. We're talking like the 9 to 5, 5 to 9, right? And my focus is really on makeup, beauty, self-care. And so I'm on that path to become just like Jazmin. I'll pass it to Kyle.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyle. I'm currently in Miami, but originally from New York City as well. My full-time work, I originally was the founder and CEO of a company called Pixly. We power a lot of the user-generated content that you see when you go online shopping. And more recently, we were acquired by Amplify, where I'm currently the Chief Strategy Officer. And I'll pass the mic to the last person, Kerizma.
Hi, my name is Kerizma, and I have been creating content since I was 11 years old. It's always been my passion, and I am a UGC creator, digital strategist, and I live in Florida, but I am a digital nomad right now. So I've been in Dubai for the past month, and I love just sharing my journey and helping other creators through mostly the avenue of personal development. So that's me.
Hi, everyone. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but I am here. My name is Fantasia, and I'm a full-time UGC creator and content strategist based in Washington, D.C. I started my UGC journey and content journey back in September full-time, and I've been loving it ever since. I'm not sure who's next. Did everyone go?
Jon-Stephen, you're up next. John, I don't think we can hear you. If you are speaking, you might need to give it a refresh. Nope, I just saw you come off mute. We still can't hear you, John. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the questions, and then, John, if you want to refresh your browser and try that, that could probably work, because we've had this issue before, so no worries. Well, cool. We can go ahead and dive into the Q&A portion of this chat. So UGC creators, like I mentioned before, they have this very defined niche because they're specifically focused on creating user-generated content for these brands, and they specialize in this area compared to, I guess, regular content creators, as we can call them. So my first question for the panelists is, how does a UGC creator's content look different from that of a regular creator's content? And anyone can hop in first.
Well, I think that's kind of the point of UGC, is that it's an ad that doesn't really feel different than a regular creator's content. So the whole, the reason why UGC does so well is because it's almost trying to mimic like an organic post on someone's For You page. So that's one of, and I get a lot of, like, I teach a lot of creators how to become UGC creators. And, you know, they get, like, obsessed with, like, creating, like, the perfect video. But then I tell them, like, that's the whole point, is to not make a perfect video. Is just to be literally yourself and just to be authentic and just try to engage the viewer that way.
Yeah, I would say go ahead.
Oh, sure. I was going to say, to add to what Kerizma said, I think it's like definitely the focus is on relatability and not perfection. And there's a call to action, right? So other creators can be doing like a day in the life or just anything without a call to action. But UGC content usually has that hook that we're trying to get folks to take action on, or, you know, in this case, like buy a product.
Yeah, and I was going to say with UGC content versus regular content, if you think about yourself as just a day-to-day content creator or even an influencer, you're kind of creating content based off your niche and what do you do on the day-to-day, if it's very lifestyle, day in the life, things of that sort. But if you think about UGC, it's a lot more strategic, and you have to think about it in a sense, right? I think you just mentioned this, where you have to have a CTA, you have to understand like the KPIs and things of that sort behind it. So though it looks the same, there is a strategic lens on when you go about shooting it, or, you know, even taking the time and looking at what the brand has done previously before, that you have to kind of take into consideration when you're kind of creating that content.
I think to echo the rest of the panelists, one thing I would just add is just the variety of the content. So when you think about investing in like a UGC strategy, one of the biggest benefits for brands is just the variety of different types of content you get. And I think that, combined with some of the other content strategies that you have, ultimately leads to a much more richer content marketing strategy.
I love that. And I'm going to see if Jon-Stephen is available now.
Let's see. Can y'all hear me?
Yay, we did it, Joe.
All right. Changing my mics.
If you want to introduce yourself, John, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Jon-Stephen Stansel. I'm Director of Social Media at Chaotic Good Studios. I have been doing social media since it was a thing you could do, but just went from working in higher ed to the entertainment industry 2 years ago. At Chaotic Good, we do franchise management for film, games, television, you name it. So get to work on and leave my fingerprint on social media for a lot of really, really awesome projects.
Beautiful. And do you have any thoughts on how UGC content looks different from that of a regular content creator?
Well, working in the entertainment industry, and especially with properties that have strong fandoms, we want it to feel organic. We look for that. We use social listening to find that UGC that the fans are creating on their own and finding ways to highlight that, encourage that, and get more of that. Make them feel rewarded for being a fan, and enjoying the things that they love, and then also having a hand in promoting that themselves.
Love that. Thank you, John. And one thing I want to circle back to what Kyle was saying. He mentioned amplifying your marketing strategy with UGC content creation. So I guess that is a perfect segue into my second question. How can brands incorporate UGC content or creators in general into their marketing campaigns?
So I can jump in on this one. So it's interesting that you kind of bring this question up because I've worked several different contracts, right, with maybe like a Google and Meta, things of that sort. And it's really interesting in a room where I'll mention UGC and people are still very much so like, what is that? Like, how can you even incorporate that into what we're doing? And so sometimes if we're running specific campaigns, and look at the emoji, right, sometimes when we're running specific campaigns, if it's around like, you know, a new product or if we're launching something, right, I try to mention UGC in a sense of it's cost effective. Because sometimes, you know, me being an influencer on both spectrum of the ends where I've recruited them and then I'm also am one, sometimes influencers are expensive and that ROI doesn't match. So it's like, hey, we're going to pay you $10,000 for this post, right? But then you're not driving any traffic and things of that sort. UGC makes it more cost effective because you can have these amazing content creators come in and strategically create ads and create content that carries on over time. And so when you're bringing that up to them and they're kind of seeing what that kind of looks like from a price perspective, they're super amazed. So I would say that's one of the perspectives that you can kind of look at it as how do you bring that in from a marketing perspective or into these brands' marketing campaigns is kind of showcasing like what is the difference if you were to hire a major creative agency, right, and pay $10,000 and $20,000, $30,000 for this campaign versus bringing in UGC creators that can create some of that more like snackable evergreen content that might perform better because when they immediately see it, it doesn't look like an ad versus you know when a brand is creating an ad because it's super polished and everything is kind of on point or on key.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit biased because, you know, I've been spending the last 10 years in this particular space. And the way that we've tried to explain it to brands, when you have any sort of marketing strategy, you have your top-down creative and then you have your bottoms-up creative. Regardless of where you sit on the spectrum around UGC creators versus influencers versus employee-generated content, etc., chances are that bottoms-up creative strategy, it shouldn't be zero. It doesn't need to be 100% of your marketing strategy, but it also shouldn't be zero. And that spectrum, I think, really differs brand to brand. Now, usually when people don't really understand the concept of UGC, you try to break it down to like simpler terms, like getting happy customers to tell your brand story is not a bad strategy at all. And as more brands invest in video in particular, especially short form video, that demand for this UGC content creator we've seen kind of go through the roof. But then the last thing, Jade, in terms of actually integrating with your marketing strategy, we have a lot of data around how brands are reusing this UGC and what channels it performs best on. And generally speaking, we've seen organic social, paid social, email, web, and mobile app being the super high performing channels for the usage of UGC.
I'm going to be honest with you guys. UGC is winning right now in all categories. I feel like with, especially with like for the campaigns, whether you're going to do an ad campaign that's paid or you're going to do organic, either way, the best way for brands to reach their target audience is through a human to human interaction. And that's done by UGC. It's relatable, it's authentic, it's real. And I really think that that's why it's doing so good right now because so many people can relate. Most of the time, everyone is on their phone. And when they're on their phone, they're being entertained by another person. And I feel like that's why it just works with just being able to connect to your target audience. And I feel like it's just going to get bigger and bigger as the years go on.
Thank y'all. So I actually want to pull. I got like a side DM in my LinkedIn inbox. So I want to pull that question up because I know we talked about the difference in what the content actually looks like between UGC creators and regular content creators. But someone asked, is there a difference between UGC creators and influencers and the content that they create?
Yes, I mean, I can answer this. A lot of the difference is UGC content is not, the reason why so many people can do it is because it's not based off your followership or anything of that sort. It's not sponsored content. You don't have to post it on your page. Versus you can if you want to, obviously, and sometimes a brand might ask you to do that. But the sole difference for me is like being an influencer is they're actually paying me to post on my stories, on my reels, on my TikTok, versus UGC is, hey, we love the content that you're already making. Can you make this content for us? And they basically own that content after the fact.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jazmin. Kyle, you want to say something?
Oh, no. I was just going to say that when it comes to that broader ecosystem, we've seen that things up into 3 buckets depending on the KPIs. One bucket is the broader affiliate bucket, and that's more of a direct sales and traffic. The second is more of a reach one, which is what Jazmin talked about if you're an influencer and posting on your channel. And the third is in that UGC bucket where the main KPI is the content. Jazmin's completely correct where a lot of these creators are not posting it on their own channels. They're sending it over to the brands and using that as an opportunity to using the brand's channels for reach.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kyle. And knowing that there are these kind of different buckets and how creators can kind of identify themselves, because obviously this is kind of like a and/or situation. You can be an influencer and/or a creator, or a UGC creator specifically, or you can just identify as a creative and not have a social presence at all. Knowing that, when it comes to this conversation, how does one actually get into the work of becoming a UGC creator? What does that look like? How do you go about partnering with brands, and how do you go about essentially pitching yourself to these brands?
I feel like this is such a long-winded, sorry, I don't know if it's a long-winded answer, so we got to try to chop it up. I think it starts with creating content. You know, you don't have to have the followerships and things of that sort, but I do think that brands would like, and this could also be me being biased because I'm seeing it from the both sides of the spectrum. Brands do want to see what type of content that you're creating. It's about having a portfolio. Twitter is a big avenue to searching for opportunities and even just getting a gist of like, what does UGC content look like? And so is TikTok. So I think it starts with you solely, like being able to create content. One of the things that when I started off being as a UGC creator, I was like, I created content with some of the products that I already had in my home. Like if it was skincare, if it was me cooking, like it was content that I was already creating. So then when I created my portfolio, I was able to just kind of take that content and put it inside my portfolio. As far as pitching, it's creating a template. For me, I like to work with more of those smaller brands because they might need that UGC versus more of the bigger brands. So it's creating a pitch template, right? And it's understanding that sometimes you're going to get a lot of no's before you get yeses, but it's a need. So meaning there's so many brands and so many small businesses and so many people that need UGC right now that there's enough money and there's enough opportunity for everyone. And like I said, that's a very short-winded answer to like a really big question. And I'm sure somebody can jump in and give a way more detailed answer than that.
I was going to say for folks who don't, let's say, have the time to be a full-time UGC creator, so similar to what Jazmin just said, it's a matter of like, okay, what are the products that I already have at home and I'm passionate about, and then uploading content about it. And that could be photos or videos, reels. When I started a few years ago, it was really around pre-pandemic, but before then I was just uploading still photos. I would just post about makeup and products that I specifically liked, and I would tag the brands. And eventually that earned an invitation into, a brand's community. And I say community, but it was really like a way for us to start doing UGC in a streamlined way on the Geneva app. So what they'd ask for is like, hey, we see that you have curly hair and you love posting content about your favorite curl shampoos or gels or whatever, right? We'd love if you did that with these new products that we're about to launch in Sephora. And so that's another way. Like you just put yourself out there on the topics and types of products that you're most interested in. And, at that time it was like an organic relationship where I wasn't pitching myself. And a few years ago, you couldn't find this kind of formula easily available on TikTok or on YouTube. And now the creator economy has become so huge that you have pitch templates that you can buy on Etsy. You can find creators on TikTok who are selling guides on how to do this in a matter of like minutes, really. So that's a way that I've approached it, from not doing it full time, but hopefully getting there.
I'll set from a brand perspective. I'll totally second that. We are constantly searching for UGC creators. We're getting on. We've got social listening software that helps us find things, but also we're getting down nitty gritty, down to like getting on Reddit forums and finding people who are creating this content and looking for the people who are getting reactions and then reaching out to them. So like just getting out there and putting yourself out there, putting your work out there is so valuable because brands are looking. We've got kind of an easier job being in the entertainment industry. Nobody really cosplays their local coffee shop, but they do, the latest science fiction or fantasy film. So we're looking for people putting themselves out there. And from a more traditional brand perspective, yes, there are people out there like using your brand's products and taking photos and creating content around that. But also look for things outside. We're mentioning working with Sephora and doing things with makeup. Like you'd be surprised how the transition and the crossover, where you wouldn't think a science fiction film would be looking at makeup influencers, but we are. We're like looking for people. Oh, you're doing these great things with makeup. Would you be interested in doing something that has a theme with this film? So just putting yourself out there is such such an important thing, and amazing that people have access to that now and can be discovered in ways that they didn't just a few years ago. It's a win-win for both brands and creators.
So my take on how to become a UGC creator is a little bit different than what everyone else is saying. So how UGC was introduced to me, it was introduced to me as in, well, you can be a content creator, but you don't need a following, so you don't need to post to your socials. So when I started UGC, I had like 50 followers on TikTok, 0 followers on Twitter, 200 followers on Instagram, and I use my methods, and I still use the same methods today. I use Upwork, which is a freelancer platform, and also emails. So the reason why I started UGC is because the reason why a lot of people aren't successful influencers too, I feel like, is because most people cannot remain consistent enough to grow a large platform. And that was always my problem. I was always like, oh, I want to be an influencer. I want to be a content creator. I have all these dreams, work with all these brands, but like I cannot show up every day for the life of me. Like it's just like crazy. So when I found out about UGC, I was like, wait a second. I can work with big brands and I don't have to be consistent on social media. Sign me up. So I think that's why UGC was very attractive to me. Yes, I've always had this dream of being an influencer with millions of followers, but the path to get there always seemed like this big like mountain, and that was just going to take so much time, and like that was just going to just be a journey that, takes time. With being a UGC creator, I closed my first deal my second day. So that's why it's also very attractive to a lot of people who are like looking at UGC content, because people are making so much money, even their first day, first week. So that's kind of my take on UGC.
Love the light flex there, Kerizma. Very humble of you. That was wonderful.
Oh,
and one thing I wanted to add to, just because I haven't heard it from the panelists yet, is, just very simplistically, being a content creator, whether it's UGC or just a regular content creator, is becoming a job in itself. I, for one, have been hired as an internal content creator working for brands, and I've been operating as a freelancer, so that's one opportunity there. And I've noticed that more brands are actually looking to hire content creators because they need people who feel comfortable, doing short-form video content or creating these kind of quick, low-produced effort kind of content pieces that they can quickly incorporate into the rest of their marketing content. So one thing, and this is not a plug for LinkedIn, I know we're on the platform, but one thing I will say is that if you literally search content creators in the job search on LinkedIn, you will find tons of roles that are paying very well, and some of them are salaried full-time positions.
What I would add to that also is to start out in UGC, make sure you're very intentional about what you want out of this. I feel like a lot of people get into this and they just, from my perspective, see a lot of TikToks about, I made $5,000 in 24 hours. And then it feels like an infomercial. And then people are like, I want to do this to get out of my 9-to-5 job. But they really don't know, what they want to get out of it personally, besides the money. And I feel like when you chase money, I feel like you will get burnt out. So just keep that in mind. When you are starting this journey, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, which is helping the brands, growing the brands, being an asset to a brand. And I feel like you will go far with that.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, because I just literally had this conversation with somebody else. If you don't like creating content, and you're just following this hype of, it's like the hype that everyone wanted to do Forex, right? Because everyone was doing it, was fast money, et cetera, et cetera. If you're trying to, chase off this fast money aspect and you already don't like creating content, it's not going to work out for you. You're not going to close those deals. And I hate to be as blunt like that, but I've seen it where people are like, they're making all this money, but why aren't I? And if it's like you already don't like creating content, if you're not consistent with it, if you're not taking the time to research, if you're not trying to perfect your craft, because these are all things that you have to do. You still have to invest in yourself. You still have to see what other UGC creators are doing. You also want to understand, how can I make myself a different UGC creator versus everyone else? What makes me stand out? Because what I might have might be completely different than what Fantasia has. You have to be very intentional in that sense as well. Like, this is just like a job anywhere and any other job that you might have. You obviously, you want to elevate and do those things of that sort, but if it's not something that you're passionate about or can grow to be passionate about, it's going to be hard to be very successful when it comes to being like a full-time content creator, where you have to find your own leads and you have to find, you have to manage your own finances, and you're going to have $5,000-$10,000 months, and then you're going to have months that are not going to be as big. So you have to kind of keep all those things into play when you're considering going into UGC.
I've also seen a lot of people in UGC kind of end up full-time at various companies. I think Jay talked about this in terms of the different job recs and roles. But if you think about it right now, if you're writing a social job rec, content has to be a big part of that job description today, just because of the importance of video. And I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for a lot of UGC creators to find full-time jobs at these various companies. And one of the things that I'm personally very excited about is when you decouple the reach versus the ability to be a good storyteller, you significantly increase the amount of talent you can potentially work with. And I think overall this is going to hopefully be a great opportunity for a lot of young people to enter the marketing world.
Love that. Thank you, guys. And that kind of transitions into a question which I know a lot of people on this chat want answers to. And creators, if you guys can answer from your point of view, and then brands marketers working at brands from your point of view as well. How much should UGC content creators be getting paid? And then how much budget should the brands be setting aside? Because it does seem like there's this kind of sliding scale. It doesn't really feel like there's any particular quote-unquote rate sheet. So if you guys have any insight into that, in the spirit of pay transparency, that would be wonderful if you guys could share.
I'll go first. So for me, when I first started back in September, normally everyone says, do your work for free, do gifted collabs. I myself have never taken a gifted collab, and here's why. I value my time, and I respect my time, and I expect whatever brand I work with to respect my time. So when I first started out, I started off with $150. My first brand deal ever was for, I believe it was 2 videos at $300, and I was so happy with that. But of course, now where I'm at, I really push for more of the monthly retainers. So depending on what the brand needs from me, then my retainers can go anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on what they need from me. So that includes whether you're looking for paid ads mixed with a little bit of organic, or if you're looking for just organic content alone. Of course, organic content is a lot more cheaper, I would say, on a monthly basis. But that also includes usage rights as well for the paid ad campaigns. So it really just depends on what the particular brand is looking for on a monthly basis, or looking for in general when it comes to pay. But pay, whoever is on this line, creators, make sure you earn what you're worth. Your time is valuable. Your content is valuable. Your creativity is valuable. Make sure you pay what you weigh, okay?
Period. A word.
I love that. Oh, did you want to go first, Jazmin? Or
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Fantasia. I think we also are connected on Twitter. I love that. And I kind of don't a lot of people ask me this question, and I never really have an answer, because there's really no right or wrong answer to what you should be charging. Because, I mean, if you think about it, I always give the example of some people are going to spend $20 on a handbag. Some people are going to spend $1,000 on a handbag, and there's people who are spending $10,000, even $500,000 on handbags. Same thing with water. Some water you can get out of the tap for free. Some water is $10 a bottle. You go to the airport, it's a different price. So price is always dependent on the value that you set and what you believe that you are worth. So, and also every project, my price changes. I don't have a set price. I have a minimum that I'm willing to accept, and that acts as my boundary. So I have a minimum of, I will not go below this number, which is $200 for an organic post. I will not do it, and that is just a boundary that protects me from burnout, that protects my energy, that protects my value. And I would say after that, it just kind of depends on the scope of work, and also depends on the brand's budget. Because also, that's why I don't really recommend putting prices in your portfolio, because if you have a price that says $150 in your portfolio, and a brand was going to pay you $400 for one video, then it's you're kind of screwing yourself over. So my advice to any creators who want to be a UGC creator just getting into the space is just the exercise that I have my creators that I coach is I have them literally place a hand over their heart and feel into, okay, does this feel good? Does this price feel worth it to me? Do I feel it kind of feels like a lot of work, or am I feeling abundant when I feel into that price? So that's the exercise that I do. And I kind of also do that with each project. I look at that number. If it's a retainer and the client wants me to do, 15 videos, okay, 15 videos for this price, how does that feel to me? Because also, in addition to that, when you're a freelancer and you have clients, I don't just accept clients just for the sake of just money and accepting clients. There are some clients that you will have to decline simply because of their energy and the working relationship can be very draining for you. So even that, if you feel this client for whatever reason, yeah, it's just videos, but just the energy of the working relationship is a little bit more draining, then that also, that's a price indicator as well. So always, like Fantasia said, just always respect your time, respect your creative energy, and just make sure that you are overall protecting yourself, because UGC is one of the biggest value to a brand. Like it is literally changing the creative industry online. So definitely know the impact that you are giving these brands.
One other quick note is also think about the timeline that the brand is asking you for, because that, let's say you want to charge $200 for a reel, right? Whether that's a good price or not depends on your personal preference. But if they're saying I need it in 3 days versus I need this in 3 weeks is a big game changer, right? So you should also be thinking through whether the rates you're setting complement the timelines that you're comfortable working on.
So we actually got to commission a study where we researched and interviewed a lot of brands and creators about different things that impact pay, and we found that it really came down to 4 different components that really dialed the price point. First is legal. Some of the larger brands ask for things like exclusives and non-competes where you're not going to work with a competitor. Obviously, if that's the case, you charge a lot more. Second, it's level of effort. So I think someone mentioned like 15 videos, or if there's a lot of back and forth where they need creative control and they're asking you to edit things and continue to make iterations to things, that should always cost more as well. Third is uniqueness/fit. This is usually a little more applicable to just the broader influencer ecosystem when people have unique followings in a certain niche. But uniqueness and fit is a big component of that, and that one is a little bit harder to really quantify. And the last but not least, how long that engagement is. And I think, this was mentioned earlier, I think by Fantasia, I think in this broader industry, especially for UGC content creators, retainers are the way to go. And I think each brand should probably have a couple of UGC creators on a retainer. But it's too much effort both for the brand and the UGC creator to just consistently do one-offs here and there. It's just not enough money for either party to really move the needle. And you can start with a one-off, but overall you probably want to move to retainer over time.
Beautiful. Thank you. So knowing that we have, I want to say about 15 to 20 minutes left, I do want to use the rest of this time to open up the conversation with our attendees. So if anyone wants to hop on the mic and ask any of our panelists a question or just share your own insights, please just raise your hand. You can tap the hand raise icon in the bottom right corner of your screen, and then I'll pull you up to speak.
What's up, Jade? Thank you, everybody. This is Osiris. This is sound test. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Copy. Peace to the guy. So I have a question regarding already established relationships. If I have not been charging for UGC and I have been on a trade basis, how does one go about evolving that relationship to paid content, and what is the process of doing that respectfully?
Can you go into detail a little bit more about, I guess, what you mean from a trade basis, if you can?
Yeah, so I'm a yoga therapist, and I have a lot of in-kind donations and sponsorships for my attendees and for my clients. And I'd like to know how to transition from just receiving in-kind donations for my events to actually being a paid content creator for my endorsers.
So you would first start by, the first step to becoming a UGC creator is making a portfolio so that when a brand approaches or when you're reaching out, you can basically show your work. So I don't know if you already have something like that, but that would be the first step, is to have a space that houses your work. So I do this via Canva, super easy. You go on canva.com, you search website. This is very important. Don't pick another template besides website, because when you choose the website template, it actually acts as a website, and you can see analytics, you can see how many people clicked it, you can see that live. It basically is like a website, and you just put your examples in there, and you can put like the process of like how this works, like, okay, contract 50%, I'm going to deliver it with a watermark, it's going to be delivered in Google Drive. I would suggest also putting your Calendly link, just so when somebody actually wants to book a call with you, then they can actually just schedule that. So I hope that answered that question. And also I think it's also a decision. I think making that energetic decision that, okay, I'm no longer available for these free, I don't know what you call them, free, I forgot the term you use for your clients, but whatever the free work that you're doing, just stating that, listen, I'm no longer available for this, and I will now be getting paid to do these services. So that initial decision is huge.
Yeah, I was going to say too, not to cut you off, is if you already have a relationship with them, right? It's a new year, and it's kind of going back to them and giving them a pitch and giving them a proposal and saying, you know, this is how content performed last year, this is what I was doing before, and presenting a new model for them, because eventually, eventually you do want to get paid for your work, right? And I think your endorsers should know that or would expect that in some type of capacity. So I would kind of come back to them, you know, with your portfolio, obviously showcasing that work and everything that you just kind of mentioned in the analytics, and kind of giving them like a pitch of saying what you can do for them in exchange for the compensation that you might be speaking, or ask them if, you know, what is their budget, or do they have any type of budget allocated for, you know, the work that you've already kind of done.
I like that. I hear both of you. Thank you for creating that space. There's the opportunity to create the portfolio via Canva, and then also to inquire and see where the budget is to create a new standard going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. All right, next we have Marlene.
Hi. Hey, Jade. I believe it was Kerizma who was speaking to this about not putting rates in their portfolio. I guess what would you suggest for UGC creators that are just starting out, how they would go about discussing their rates with potential clients outside of having it in their portfolio?
Yes. So you're asking, like, how you basically would close a deal if your rates aren't in there? Is that what you're asking?
Right, because from what I'm seeing in terms of, like, setting up the portfolio for UGC, a lot of people are suggesting, you know, just having the rates in the portfolio. So what you were saying does make sense of not kind of lowballing yourself off bat. So, yeah, I just wanted to see if you could elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, of course. So there's pros and cons to adding your rates. So ultimately, these things are very, very small details to a very large pie. So you're not gonna like not be a successful UGC creator just because you do or don't have your rates. It really doesn't. It's not like a huge like deal breaker. But one of the pros, like I was saying, is that if a brand was looking to pay you a bigger budget, but then they do see your rates, and they're like, oh, okay, well, you know, they have a lower rate, so, you know, let's just offer them that. And then the pro to having your rates is that it eliminates people wasting your time, because if a brand can't afford you and they look at that rate, they'll be like, oh, it's too expensive. And for you, that's a good thing, because you don't want your time wasted, right? So how you would do this is you put a Calendly link, and I always meet with every single one of my potential clients every single time via Google Meet or Zoom. So during this meeting, that is when I discuss scope of services, give a little background about myself, and that is where I close the deal. The reason why I recommend doing it this way is because, one, like, I have a big background in sales. When you're closing any deal, the major part of that deal is building rapport. So a lot of my clients have hired me simply because, oh, we get along, you're super sweet, like, I feel like I'm, like, not even working, I'm just, like, talking to you, like, yeah, like, and they have all these other people that they're interviewing, but because I've built that human connection with them, I've established rapport with them, they like me, because people buy from who they like, know, and trust. I'm able to close that deal better than, like, there's only so much rapport that you can build over an email thread. So that is where I close the deal, is face-to-face, not with a camera turned off, face to face. We can joke, we smile, we laugh together. I love, like, to me, it's like deeper than UGC. Just the connections that I built with people is amazing. So definitely have your Calendly link, schedule a call with them, and close it over this Zoom or actual meeting.
Beautiful.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So essentially, I could add a Calendly link to, like, my portfolio or, like, my email that I send out to the brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And after after, like, in my email pitch, I ask them if they're available to meet the next day, because it's a time thing when you're closing deals. So if you get a response from a brand via email, they're like, hey, okay, yeah, we want to see your portfolio. Say, great, here's my link to my portfolio. Are you available tomorrow at this time so I can learn a little bit more about your goals for this campaign and we can discuss some content ideas? And then, like, that's how I do it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I add something really quick to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Fantasia.
So I know this is like an ongoing topic in the UGC community with adding your rates in your portfolio. So I offer a different perspective. So I definitely add my rates in my portfolio. However, starting rates. So that way, if a brand does visit my portfolio, it's not going to be, they know already before they even reach out that these are starting rates, meaning that the rates are going to be negotiated, and this is just a base rate, and it will go up. This is not just the entire total, basically. And this saves you so much time, because when brands go to your portfolio, they'll be able to see, okay, this is where she's starting at, so we know if we can afford her services or not. So this way, it saves you time from, speaking to a brand, and then you get on the phone with them or on a Zoom call, and then they're like, oh, we want to offer you $50, and now you're like, no. So that's just, it's up to you, basically, but I do want to offer a different perspective, because I feel like it saves you time, and a lot of times brands won't reach out if you don't have rates in your portfolio. I follow so many brand managers on TikTok, and a lot of them always say, when we look at your portfolio, if you don't have any rates in your portfolio, we're not reaching out. I've seen so many managers say that, so just keep that in mind. Of course, it's up to you at the end of the day, but just keep that in mind as well.
Thank you for that advice. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Okay, and then I think we have time for 2 more questions, and then Jazmin is up next.
Hi, thank you so much. My question was regarding, we were speaking earlier about building a portfolio, and so I already am a Canva Pro user, right? The website and everything, love that. But say that we already have the portfolio together. Can someone speak specifically to how to get your pitch deck your portfolio in front of brand managers, or or especially leveraging LinkedIn? I would love to learn how to leverage LinkedIn in this. Thank you.
Does anyone want to touch on LinkedIn content creation?
I don't use LinkedIn, so I can't really add anything, but I would say, I use mostly email outreach and Upwork, so I can't really speak to LinkedIn. I'm sorry.
Me either. I'm sorry. I'm not a LinkedIn girl yet. I tried maybe a week, and then I was like, you know what? No.
Maybe we should be Fantasia. Maybe we should.
Right. I'm thinking about it. Maybe I should come back.
I can speak to. I know that this is where, like, the professional, the marketing strategists and so forth. This is where everyone is in doing business, So, but even if it's not, to LinkedIn.
I can speak just a little bit to LinkedIn. I made it my New Year's resolution last year to start using LinkedIn more, and I didn't really, like most New Year's resolutions, I kind of gave up on it until like mid-summer. And I'm really active on Twitter, and just started noticing that a lot of my tweets were getting just like copied and pasted and on to LinkedIn without like crediting me, and I got kind of tired of that. So it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start copying and pasting my stuff and reformatting it to make it work a little bit better for LinkedIn. And I think there's been a big sea change with LinkedIn, especially with changes going on Twitter. There's a lot of people kind of migrating over and looking for other communities right now, and it's not quite as suit and tie as it was 5 years ago. You can be a little bit more honest, a little bit more real there, but just like any social platform, you've just got to show up every day and do it, and be your true self to your comfort level on LinkedIn. Just kind of how you feel comfortable on the platform, but for me, I went from, I think I don't even know what my follower count was at the beginning of the year. It was under 1,000, and now I'm about to hit 15,000, and that's a lot of that is just recycling content that I've used in other areas. So getting out there and just putting yourself out there is incredibly valuable, and I would recommend it to anyone. If you're interested, just get out there and just start doing it. Put up your portfolio, talk about your work, and connect with people there, because there is value in LinkedIn. I rolled my eyes. Like a year ago, I never thought I would have said that about LinkedIn, but now I'm all in.
Jasmine, I would also add, if you follow brands that you enjoy and would be interested in making UGC content for, their brand or account managers, the people who own those social account managers, are on the social platform and they're either tagged, or you can find their name and then look them up on LinkedIn and take it from there. They're putting themselves out there in this way, in the same way that you are. So more likely than not, it could be a good way to then build that conversation on a different platform outside of either TikTok or Instagram.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't use LinkedIn for UGC, but I am a LinkedIn girly in a sense of personal branding. And what I would say is take the time to talk to people. I spend every day on LinkedIn talking to somebody new, if it's a CEO, if it's a brand manager, if it's a recruiter, people that you probably wouldn't be able to touch in real life. You're able to have genuine conversations with them. And then I also post content that might have been viral on one of my other platforms, and I'm always interacting with other people's things, because LinkedIn is exactly that. It's a networking platform. It's not putting up your pretty pictures or, the day in the life and things of that sort. You can be a lot more raw and real. You see Jade, like she posted the other day, like, where the hoes at, and it caught my attention. I was like, did she just say that on LinkedIn? And I was like, wait a minute. But it's a lot more raw and real than you believe so. And it's great for personal branding, because I see that you're freelance, right? So if they're looking to hire you for something, you can really share your personality, and they can really see who you are as an individual on LinkedIn. When I used to hire social strategists all the time, I used to love to see what their personality reflected on LinkedIn. So don't sleep on it, for sure. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And then we have time for one more question, if we can keep it very brief, because we have to close this chat in 5 minutes. Tori, you're up.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm not necessarily trying to become a UGC creator myself, but what I have done is I just started my own digital marketing agency, to where I help service-based small business owners create content for their social media accounts. So what I'll do is, if you have a service-based small business, I'll help you come up with a content strategy, the content calendar, and depending on the package that you pick, I will even help you create the content and edit the content and schedule the content for you. I've only worked with 2 to 3 clients. I'm in the very beginning stages, and back to the point that someone made earlier about the difference between like really polished type video versus like the more organic, realistic type video. I was creating more polished type videos for my clients, and it really wasn't resonating with their audience. And so I was wondering, just getting some feedback from anyone, when it comes to my package, the packages that I offer, should I add a mixture of creating those polished type videos, like commercial brand type videos, with the UGC, or should I just help service-based small business owners create the UGC type content. So which one type of video do you think would resonate more in today's social climate on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook? And then my second question is, I really do a lot for the businesses that I work with, and I'm having a hard time explaining to, the older generation of the amount of work that I'm doing for you and justifying the price. So my first question is, polished video versus more authentic type video, and then two, trying to explain my worth and my messaging, and explaining that I'm really handling the entire content creation process for you, and that's why I charge a lot more. That's it. Thank you.
Kyle, you gonna jump in?
So to kind of answer your first question about polished versus authentic video, I think where a lot of the broader marketing industry is confused about this, it's really around what point of that marketing funnel is this content for. So a lot of, I think, the historical points of view around content quality is usually historically around production value, which was absolutely true when the content was more of a top of the funnel opportunity, or like a TV ad, for example. But one of the really unique benefits of UGC, like we kind of have talked about throughout this conversation, is how it's a really good middle of the funnel opportunity. So just give you an example. Right now, people talk about TikTok as a great way for awareness, but there's also a lot of consumers who are searching things on TikTok. So let's just say you're creating a video for a small business, maybe a good breakfast spot in Atlanta. There's a lot of people who are probably searching great breakfast spots in Atlanta, and that traffic that you're getting via TikTok search, in my opinion, is even higher quality than that of a Google search. So I think that most businesses don't really think about how these shifts in social media have impacted where that UGC is more and more important over time. So that's a long-winded way of saying I think that your discussions around more authentic content is the right way to go. And I think when you look at the trends around social media and how it's a better middle of the funnel opportunity, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity just to kind of double down there. The second part of the question, I think is I don't know. I'm not sure I can help you on that one. That's a tough one.
I would say for the second part, I have clients like this too, where it's like, well, why is it, $3,000 a month? Why is it $4,000 a month? And you just have to go in depth of everything that you're doing. Okay, let's sit down. Let's go. Okay, so I'm doing this and this one thing. This is how I get it done. So I feel just going very detailed into every specific thing that you're doing will help give them a better idea. Oh yeah, she's actually doing a lot. So that would be my advice.
Okay, thank y'all, and thank you, Tori. I hope you got your questions answered. I'm going to wrap up the chat for today. So I just want to thank everyone for joining us for the third episode of Creator Tea Talk. This was very insightful, and I'm so glad I had this panel who just answered the best questions. And I feel now I have to go figure out how to build my own personal brand as a UGC creator myself so I can get some coin. So thank you guys for your insights. So thank you to the panelists, and I want to thank all the attendees for joining. The next episode of Creator Tea Talk will be on February 2nd, and we'll be spilling the tea on the Black creator economy in honor of Black History Month. So be on the lookout for that conversation. And again, I am your host, Jay Powell. If you have any questions, thoughts, or feedback, please feel free to slide into my DMs. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank
you.
Everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.